Okay, hello everyone. This is another episode of the Love Your Liver live stream with me, Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective. And today, last week we didn't get to many questions because I was going over some other stuff like research and testimonials and stuff. So this week I want to make sure that if you have questions, I know a lot of people may not be here because it is the Friday after Thanksgiving, so people may be off doing things, and I appreciate that. But if you have questions, for those of you who are here, you may get a lot more questions in than you might otherwise. And first, I wanted to go over a couple of testimonials. Now, I'm going to post the link here because I can't do sharing screen with the live stream. So I put it into a Google Doc so you all can go and see the picture. That's the important thing. I'll read the testimonial, but if you want to go see the pictures of this woman's ankle edema going down quite quickly into her vitamin A detox program, also known as the Love Your Liver program over at nutritiondetective.com. Let me go over there's two testimonials in this document, but the picture is why I put that link there. Okay, so here we go. I am pretty sure I damaged my liver by eating stupid amounts of animal liver, chicken, pork, and beef, and eggs and egg yolks for the past year or so. One of the many symptoms I developed from this was edema in my feet. The left foot was worse than the right, typical for liver damage according to Dr. Google. I've been on the vitamin A detox for around 7 days, but only in the past 5 days have I limited my vitamin A intake to not more than 7 micrograms / less than 100 IUs per day. Before that, for 2 days, it was around 500 to 600 IUs per day. Vitamin A measurements were according to eatthismuch.com. I've also been taking 15 milligrams of lactoferrin every day for the past 5 days. Now that could be right. I was going to ask this person if it was 15 or 150, but it says 15, so I'm going to go by 15. So she's probably starting on the very small doses of lactoferrin that I suggest, and I link to instructions on the lactoferrin bottle about starting slowly, because we don't need to, there's no benefit to starting this process too fast. Then you just make yourself not feel good, and the feeling good comes later. I've also added, so here she goes again, I've also added a 1/4 teaspoon of charcoal per day for the past few days. In the attached photo, you can see that on the left side, my left foot before I started the detox. On the right side is the picture I took today. There is just a 12-day difference between them here. We'll make that. The effect was visible within 48 hours after going on less than 100 units of vitamin A. I currently eat mostly brown or white rice pasta and lamb. Lamb is said to have 0 vitamin A. So that's what she says here. There is no food just about that is truly 0 vitamin A, just so you know. This is what they say. There may not be retinol in it, but there can be retinol esters, which they don't measure. And here it says, before that, I ate chicken instead of lamb. Today, I added a bit of lean beef. I mean, it's all fine. Generally, animal muscle meat, except for pork, avoid shellfish. Generally, animal muscle meat is very low in vitamin A, so I'm just going to throw that in there. And it's a very recommended food on the vitamin A detox program. Continuing, another thing which improved quickly was the insane cold feeling I had developed. I would lie in bed and shiver from chills. I would wear 2 sweaters, 2 layers of pajama type pants, socks, and 2 layers of covers when going to sleep, and I would still feel crazy cold. Sometimes I would add a thick bathrobe on top of it all, and I would still feel cold. Within 3 days of going low vitamin A, the shivers mostly stopped. I now sleep without socks and with just 1 sweater. So I'm going to take a side here. For all of you out there who have been misled that your thyroid needs vitamin A, you have been misled. Are we trying to do a pro-metabolic diet with this person? Well, I mean, we're helping her metabolism. Yes. I mean, we want the metabolism to run correctly. So really what we're doing is we're taking out a lot of the things that slow down people's metabolism. Now, let's just say if there was people out there who were advocating eating liver and egg yolks and carrot salad and cod liver oil and all these natural sources of vitamin A, which this person said she ate a lot of livers, different animal livers, and lots of egg yolks. And she goes on a low vitamin A diet. And it would appear that her thyroid function massively improved within 12 days, 7 to 12 days. You have been lied to. Vitamin A is a poison. And I've posted links before about how vitamin A in the research has been shown to negatively impact the thyroid. So if you choose to ignore that, you want to listen to the talking heads on the internet and take your organ supplements and eat your liver and eat your kidneys and eat your egg yolks and your brightly colored fruits and vegetables, you'll get what is coming. That's what I can say. So let's keep going. The sensation of having a dry rock-like thing instead of a tongue in my mouth with insane thirst when waking up also is mostly gone. This is something that Grant Genereux, the original guy who wrote the free ebooks on vitamin A toxicity and a good buddy of mine, this is something that Grant reported too. A sandpaper-like sensation on my skin is also getting better very quickly. Although adding apple cider vinegar or lemon juice to my meals has helped greatly with it, interestingly enough. Would like to know why that is. Does vinegar displace or somehow flush out vitamin A? That's a question from her in the testimonial. I'm not going to go into that here, but different acids, aldehydes, alcohols can displace certain things from the detox pathways. Acetic acid is made as part of, so there would be, why am I not thinking of it? Ethanol, alcohol turns into acetaldehyde, turns into acetic acid. This is why wine can turn into red wine vinegar. Like, so it goes down, these things are going down these detox pathways, and the yeast that is in alcohol, that's what makes alcohol, puts these chemicals, compounds through these processes. It could have something to do with the acids. It could have something to do with the acetic acid. As an example, when people have methanol poisoning, to help them avoid turning that methanol into formaldehyde, which can then is what kills them. And it's also acetaldehyde from alcohol that is really what is going to kill people. It's not the alcohol, it's the acetaldehyde that it turns into. So what they can do when somebody has methanol poisoning to prevent the eventual formaldehyde toxicity, which is really what hurts them, they actually, poison control places have to make these people like drink alcohol, ethanol, keep a buzz, and not go to sleep. They basically keep them awake for several days, keeping a buzz, because what the ethanol coming into the liver does is it displaces the methanol into alternate detox pathways that don't make the formaldehyde. Okay, so you can use, the person's already poisoned with methanol, and they give them another poison to reduce the symptoms of the first poisoning or to reduce the effects of it. This person may live through this event, but they have now been double poisoned in the process. So, I mean, if I had to choose, would I drink alcohol for whatever 2 or 3 days that I needed to get the methanol to not kill me? Yes, of course. But people have to realize that a lot of medicine, conventional medicine, and even alternative medicine is using one poison to push out another one. And then people are wondering why everybody's sick and poisoned, is because we are just using one poison to push out another one. Okay? So back to this. I'm not so vinegar. I tended to, just so you know, in my diet, lemon juice is full of limonene and citraldehyde, and not a huge fan of it for the liver. Those things tend to slow down the liver, especially citraldehyde and ALDH. And vinegar, I have generally, I love vinegar. I love the taste of vinegar. I have generally tried to reduce it in my diet because as somebody was talking about with alcohol, they said alcohol is the product of rotting vegetables, rotting vegetable matter, rotting plant matter. And I went, not necessarily vegetables, but rotting plant matter. I'll just keep it at that. And I went, oh, yeah, that's interesting. And then vinegar is the further evolution of that rotting plant matter. So I'm going to say, and there is quite a bit of research out there on acetic acid and vinegars potentially not being good for people. So what I would say is with vinegar, it is something you can use, but I would try to keep it minimum. I think that's a generally good idea. So, but does it flush out vitamin A? No, the only thing that gets rid of vitamin A is actually gets rid of it is pooping, peeing, and you can push some of it out through your skin. But by the time you're pushing a lot of it through your skin, you got skin problems. So you always would rather it comes out in your poop and your bile. Okay, so the final paragraph. So far, so good. I'm grateful for Grant and Dr. Smith who have helped me to finally figure it out. But I understand that recovery will take time. Fingers crossed. Okay. So she's got, this is what I would call the honeymoon phase. Drastic good benefits at the start. Over time, as things settle in and the liver starts saying, because right now she's feeling better because she simply stopped putting the poisons in, which is the first step. Over time, as her body is getting healthier and stronger and is storing up more energy, it will start dumping this stuff out. And because all of us who are not well have some amount of cholestasis, which is bile going back into the bloodstream, if some of that new detox that's happening, if some of it comes back into the bile, which it will, and the bile is going back into the blood, which if people aren't well, they're going to have that. They can have some, what we call detox dumping symptoms. We slow things down then. That's what we do. We don't push so hard. I don't want people to have more detox symptoms than they need. And this is stuff that we go over. Lots of people are very helpful inside the Love Your Liver program. We got 800 plus people in there, and many of them have been through these things, and they can help, guide people and give people support as they go through this process. So now I have a great testimonial from a woman who is a client of mine, lives in the UK, and she ordered the Nutrition Detective Lactoferrin, our Lactoferrin. You can find it on the store at nutritiondetective.com. I will tell you that members of the detox program, if they email Julie, can get the best price possible. So for those of you who are interested, joining the program, you can get a better price on the Lactoferrin. Here we go. Just wanted to update on Lactoferrin. A week ago, I went up from half a 64th teaspoon. So let me just back up. What she's talking about, I suggest people open up the capsules when they first start and use the fractional teaspoons or the mini teaspoons where there's 1/64th is a drop, 1/32nd is I think a smidgen. and 1/16, 1/8, and 1/4. So a full pill of lactoferrin is a bit more than a 1/4 teaspoon. So anyway, so I have people start slowly. That's what she's talking about. A week ago, I went up from half of a 64th teaspoon twice a day to a full 1/32 of a teaspoon twice a day. So she quadrupled her dose in a day. The Qatar, and let me just go over the definition of Qatar. Catarrh is inflammation of a mucous membrane, especially one chronically affecting the human nose and air passages. So sinusitis, inflammation of the mucous membrane, okay, of the nose. The catarrh and swollen lymph nodes are gone, and I just feel great. Totally energized, full of life, and sleeping amazingly well. Another thing I noticed, I have had glossitis for several years, which is the tongue redness and tending towards swelling. I realized recently that the bald patches were predominantly on the sides of my tongue, which according to the Chinese tongue map corresponds to the liver. Well, yesterday I noticed it has healed. I think it is the lactoferrin, as I still had it for the first few months of doing this diet, so it seems a recent change. I also think that lactoferrin has been a better value than a marriage counselor, especially as I have only used about $3 worth on him so far. My husband is a new man, like a personality change overnight and still going strong 3 weeks later. There is no more sitting around exhausted and staring mindlessly at his phone for hours at weekends. He is up early, hanging out with me and the kids, eating better, still a way to go, but massive improvement, helping tidy up the house, has quit smoking, is exercising regularly with our neighbor. He is happier with a much more even mood. It has blown him out of his rut. It's like a miracle. Thank you. After I previously couldn't get him interested in having the testing, now he is like, hey, when are we doing my HTMA? That's a hair mineral analysis, hair tissue mineral analysis. Amazing. I'm a happy wife. There's a saying out there, happy liver, happy life. It's basically completely true. Okay? Your liver runs how you feel, what your disease states are. Your liver regulates everything that's floating around in your blood, basically. So when we start fixing the liver itself, we start fixing the bile ducts, then the toxic bile is going where it's supposed to go. So then the body can start healing in the blood. If the bile is going where it's supposed to go, you put less toxic bile into the blood that then can go and damage your kidneys. For those of you who have read Grant's books, Grant was heading towards dialysis and he had chronic kidney disease. He's the only person who his nephrologists have seen recover completely from chronic kidney disease. And he had terrible eczema too, which was his main concern, and jaundice and all that. But it's all gone now. So we stop loading the kidneys as a detox outlet. We stop overloading them. You stop pushing out toxins through the skin. Isn't it funny how skin conditions associated with the liver, always the body turns yellow, which is the same color as vitamin A. Jaundice, bilirubin, bilirubin, we get rid of vitamin A through the bile, and then we start seeing everybody turning yellow. Anyway, just interesting. But we start fixing the liver and the toxic bile goes where it's supposed to. So all of a sudden, all the toxic bile, everything that was in it that went into your blood is not there as much. So then we start seeing things go away. Your body can then increase the rate of repairs and you're decreasing the rate of damage. And your body, wonderfully created by God, then fixes the problem. All we are trying to do is get your body to stop putting in the poisons, help your body get rid of the poisons that's already stored, And then what I do via my testing and consultation packages is we are trying to give the body the nutrients that it needs through both diet, and when people cannot get enough of certain things, like especially minerals, mainly minerals, and it's not that many of them, when they cannot get them through diet, then we give it to them in the form of supplements, and we test, we don't guess, and then we address to make sure that we're doing things right. Now, later today, I'm going to be doing a pre-recorded Zoom recording of me going over my labs. So you guys will get to see my labs from about a month ago, and I'll be showing you how this all starts to look over time. And I've been doing this for 3 years. So we will get into that. So that link is for those testimonials if you want to see them. So no questions yet. So if anybody's here, you want to post a question, go ahead. If it's something I've been over before, or you're not sure, or you just want to ask a general question, we could do that. Please don't ask me for treatment. Don't ask me what you should do. That's not cool for me to say here. And that's just, so now what I'm going to do, so since there's no questions until I see a question pop up, I'm going to go and see if I can find in my Slack. So what I have is I have a Slack. It's an app or a website where I accumulate all of my my data, my research, and I put it together. Just so I do, people in my inner circle group on the network. That's where I'm going to go do my video Q&A for probably another 2 hours after we're done here. I do that once a week. Grant Genereux himself joins me once a month for questions. And then, so that's inside the network, into the detox program. People can join that. There is a charge, but that's who gets to see the Slack. It's open for people to look. Nobody gets to put stuff in there except me. Oh, why don't I just, I think I went over this last week. No, I won't go over the smallpox thing again. Let's see, anything interesting? Let me see if anybody posted. Okay, Theodore asks, how does alcohol affect depression? That's a big question. I'll try to do it. How do we say this? So sometimes people want to get into big mechanisms, like what does it do? What does it cause here? Your liver runs what is floating around in your blood. What is floating around in your blood is what feeds or poisons your brain. It's as simple as that. Alcohol is, like I was saying earlier, the product of rotting plant matter. It's what it is. It's a process of rotting. If you've ever been to, I mean, this is the thing I always think about when I think about the smell of vinegar or the smell of alcohol. In a natural place, where can we smell this? You ever go to an apple tree farm to go pick apples, and the apples have fallen and they're rotting? It doesn't smell good. Nobody's out there going, ooh, this smells delightful, right? It smells like rotting apples. So that's the first thing you want to think about with alcohol is a poison. That's it. We don't want it in our body. Our liver has, alcohol dehydrogenase, aldehyde dehydrogenase, and these things to get rid of it. So you don't want it. I actually have, I don't remember if I have it in my Slack. Let's see. But your body can actually store alcohol in the liver for a very short time. I don't have it here. Let me see if I can find it on PubMed. Here we go. Here we go. Here's a paper. So I just want you to understand, I've been going over some things in, just did a big article on the Detox Network about how vitamin E and vitamin D both end in cholecalciferol, calcitriol. They end in OL and they are alcohols. And vitamin E, tocopherol. And there are vitamin E esters, and there are vitamin D esters. It all seems to fit the same pattern of things that I'm not so sure are actually vitamins. For those of you who haven't seen it, on this channel, there's a vitamin D video about how vitamin D supplements are poison. Notice I said supplements. Vitamin D supplements are used as rat poison. I just saw a commercial the other day for D-Con, D-Con. It's a rat poison. They call it D-Con because vitamin D is the active ingredient. And they use it when the rats have adapted to the warfarin or the warfarin, coumarin. They normally give rats anticoagulants like warfarin or coumarin, but when those stop working, then they give them vitamin D supplements to kill them. So just, if you're taking it, yeah, just remember that most of the research out there today is completely corrupt and some of it is actually made up. They are actually, seriously, an editor, ex-editor from the British Medical Journal just said a while back that he's like, tons of the research today is completely corrupt and some of it is just straight made up. So when people are sending me studies and going, well, what do you think about this study? And what do you think about this study? I'm like, do I know if it's true at all? Think of today. Today is all deception anyway. It's all lies and deception out there. So we have to go through it and figure it out. And if they've been lying and deceiving us in politics and pokey jab science and pathogen science, the thing that blows my mind is that, and it took me a while to figure this out too, but it blows my mind now because I see it so obviously. Why would we ever think that they weren't completely corrupting nutrition science? How else to affect people in the biggest way possible other than teaching them to eat the wrong things? But they can dress it all up in something that seems to make sense. Oh, eat the rainbow of colors. The more colors you get, the more nutrients you get. And you know, and then eat your salads with oil so you have fat to absorb fat soluble vitamins, which the only one that's really you're going to find in salad is whether there's some vitamin K, but maybe you're going to get vitamin A. So they're trying to get you to absorb more vitamin A. Do you see how they're doing this on purpose? But it sounds cute to eat lots of bright colors. You don't need them. You don't need them at all. So anyway, but alcohol and depression. Alcohol is a poison. I don't know what else to say. It's just, it is a poison, and poison is going to cause people depression. Poison is going to create more acetaldehyde. Alcohol turns into acetaldehyde. That is what gives people hangovers. That is what damages your liver. That is the nasty stuff. And it has to turn into acetaldehyde for you to detox it. Aldehydes use up your thiamine B1. And this is consistently found in alcoholics that they have big time thiamine B1 deficiencies. If you simply stop putting in the poison, whatever's causing that deficiency, that part of it disappears. B1 can help people with their mood a lot. I'm not suggesting people run out and supplement B1. I talk about B1 on the network. I'm not going to give any recommendations on it here. But generally, by lowering your exposure to aldehydes, whether it's retinaldehyde, vitamin A, whether it's acetaldehyde from alcohol, whether it's formaldehyde from methanol in foods, we want less aldehydes because aldehydes are just poison. And then people don't realize that smelly things that smell a lot. So when you're at your Thanksgiving dinners or your Christmas dinners or whatever holidays you celebrate, and you're using vanilla, the scent of vanilla is from vanillin, which is an aldehyde. So you're basically adding aldehydes to your food. Okay. Cinnamaldehyde is an aldehyde, and the basic cinnamon, I forget the one that we tend to use, not cassia, I don't remember which one is the typical one and which one is the fancy one. But one of them is like 95% cinnamaldehyde. That is what you are basically, when you put cinnamon in your food, you are putting straight up aldehydes in your food. You're flavoring your food with aldehydes. Same thing with vanilla. I forget, the other one was like 75% cinnamaldehyde. So you're putting poison in your food. Nature marks poisons with bright colors, bright or strong or dark colors, deep colors. Intense colors, whether that's a dark color or whether that's a bright color. It marks them with strong odors or scents, and it marks them with bitter tastes. So people are like, what about my herbs and spices? Because I posted about herbs and spices, and I said, 99% of this stuff is poison on my Facebook. Because now they were finding arsenic, lead, and cadmium in herbs and spices, and it's kind of like birds of a feather flock together. One poison loves another poison. If you ever notice that, like, when you're drinking, you tend to want to eat garbage food. And then, you're tired in the morning, so you've been drinking, so now you need to have coffee in the morning to get you up. And then you need to have sugar through the day. You need to have sugar in your coffee. You need to have sugar through the day. And it's just one poison begets another one. But anyway, so in those herbs and spices, so there's arsenic, cadmium, lead. They were talking about testing them. And I'm kind of going, the easy solution here is you don't eat them. Lots of herbs. If you've ever taken herbal therapy, herbs are bitter. That's how nature marks poisons. When you're talking about spices are brightly colored. Strange. Herbs and spices are both strongly scented. You will do much better. People have a fit when they come to this and they're like, what am I going to season my food with? And we're going to tell you, the veterans of this, you just move to salt. That's basic. I mean, you can do things on occasion to add some flavor to your food, but we just move to salt. And the funny thing is, as you get cleaner and you're getting away from all the poisons, you want less poison. So all of a sudden you don't want the herbs and spices so much. Anyway, let me get to some other questions. But alcohol, you just need to know. So allencarr.com, ALLEN. So here, I'll just put this here, Allen Carr. You can find his website at allencarr.com. He has written tons of books. He rest in peace, but he's written tons of books and done tons of programs, and they're still continuing on with his work on how to quit things. Using the alcohol one and the cigarette one, if you smoke, those are two of the biggest things you can do. Whether you do one of his live seminars, where it's like a Zoom, a video, they're in the UK, I think, where you can do like a Zoom thing, or you can do their short videos that are just, you do it yourself, or you can go on Audible and get his audiobooks. I'm a huge believer in Allen Carr. But I'll tell you, if you don't want it to work, it doesn't work. If you want it to work, it's amazing. So Sarah asks, can gluten make vitamin A / copper toxicity symptoms worse? That's a tough question. I actually, let me just go check. I don't know if I found this before. I might. Sometimes I forget what I have found research on. Okay. So what? Yeah, I've gone over this. So gluten. Okay, so what is the connection between vitamin A and copper? Vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity. Well, they both accumulate in the liver. This is obvious. This should not be under debate. And they are both detoxed or excreted best through the bile. The toxic bile that comes out of your liver then goes to your intestines, which is where they find evidence of gluten intolerance or celiac disease, right? So, what if celiac was connected, a celiac or gluten intolerance, gluten sensitivity was connected to the bile? What if it caused cholestasis? Or what if it just caused massive toxic bile dumping into the guts, and that toxic bile was what caused the damage to the gut lining? I'm just going to go over some titles of some studies here so you can see that there is an obvious connection. So, and I'll put these links in the comments. Review article, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that's SIBO, bile acid malabsorption, and gluten intolerance as possible causes of chronic watery diarrhea. We'll put that in there. Then we have gallbladder. Well, so these are some gallbladder connected. So gallbladder problems are bile stagnation. Your gallbladder is meant to hold the bile for a little bit. It kind of matures in there, and then it's stored there. So when you eat, it squeezes it out. So it mixes with the food. So it dilutes this toxic bile more as it moves through your intestines. Okay. Your gallbladder is there to hold the bile so that it can be dumped in one shot. So it's not just a trickle out, just constantly irritating your intestines because there's no food with it. Okay. So this is just some connections between the gallbladder and celiac. So we have gallbladder emptying and somatostatin and cholecystokinin plasma levels in celiac disease. We have lack of endogenous, well, that's not really a celiac one. Impaired intestinal cholecystokinin secretion, a fascinating but overlooked link between celiac disease and cholesterol gallstone disease. Fascinating but overlooked. Imagine that. Keep clicking on the wrong one. Defective gallbladder emptying and cholecystokinin release in celiac disease. Reversal by gluten-free diet. Are we seeing a pattern here? Serum primary bile acids in the course of celiac disease in children. Now, let me tell you something. If you haven't heard me enough, you're not supposed to have bile in your blood. You should have 0 bile acids in your blood. And here's the title of the study: Serum primary bile acids in the course of celiac disease in children. And here's the last one I'll put in here. Metabolic signature of primary biliary cholangitis, that's a cholestatic disease, cholestasis disease, and its comparison with celiac disease. So they're saying that these look very, very similar. And I had to do all these links separately because Google only gives me so many so many letters in a post, in a comment. So what is gluten doing? For some people, now I don't know if it was one of those studies, but what they found was, what they're finding is that in celiac people, the bile response, the gallbladder response, there was a big gallbladder response with gluten. And with non-celiacs, they didn't see that big bile gallbladder response. So there was something changed in the celiac people versus the non-celiac people in terms of how their bile and their gallbladder was responding to when they ate gluten. So then you take somebody with gluten intolerance, celiac disease, and they stop eating it and they improve. But then if they're still toxic, which, not eating gluten is addressing a symptom, right? Because if, let's just say you had somebody who as a child could eat gluten. And then along the way, the term I use is something broke. And now they can't eat gluten anymore at all, or they have massive problems. What happened between their childhood and after they broke? I mean, something broke, right? This happens with people. I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted, and now if I don't eat right, I have massive blood sugar crashes. You broke something. Whether it was your fault or not, you broke something. Something broke. So, what is most likely breaking? The liver and the bile system. What do we fix? We fix that. That's our goal. Okay? So are they connected? Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Is it specifically vitamin A, copper toxicity? I don't know that I could put it on either one, but I can tell you that if we got the vitamin A out of the bile and we got the copper out of the bile over time, and we got the other poisons out of the bile, what we have seen in general with people I've been working with over the years is a reduction in hypersensitivity allergy type symptoms. People find they're able, as they do this right over time, they're able to eat more foods. Now, at the start, in their early days, they might be eating fewer foods because they actually start noticing that certain foods cause them problems and they try to start avoiding those. And then over time, people will say, well, can I go back to eating these foods? All these foods that I took out, I want to go back to eating them. Look, if you drove your car over a nail and it caused you a flat tire, and then you go to the tire store and you go, can you fix my tire? They fix your tire. So let's say we fix people with diet. And then they go, I want to go drive over that nail again. Because my tire's fixed now, right? I should be able to drive over the nail again. And you drive over the nail and you get the same problem. What I'm saying is that anyone can re-cause the same problem. If you go back and you do the same things, like if you knew what caused your problems before and you fix it, do you really want to go back and cause yourself the same problem again is the question. And can you always go back and you can always, if you like your disease, you can keep your disease. You can always go back and have it again. So, Linda says, I have a family member who is dealing with gout. He's a fan of pork, and I'm wondering if pork consumption can cause gout. Pork is garbage food. I am a Christian. I do believe that the laws of Leviticus were put there for good reason. Pork is full of vitamin A. It is full of retinoic acid. They don't measure it as retinol. People go and they look and they say, well, it's got 0 IUs of retinol. It's not in there as retinol. It's in there as retinoic acid or retinol esters, and they're not measuring that. But let's go and find Anthony Mawson's gout PubMed. Let me go find Anthony Mawson's papers on gout. Because he's written 2. One was kind of like an exploratory paper. And so here we have gout and vitamin A intoxication. Is there a connection? There's one. And then we have Hypervitaminosis A, toxicity, and gout. So these are his 2 papers. Is there a connection between vitamin A toxicity and gout? I believe there is. What is hypervitaminosis A, vitamin A toxicity? What does it cause in the liver? Cholestasis. So what do we work on fixing? We get the bile to go the right way. I don't know what to tell people who eat pork on a regular basis, other than you're just eating like the lowest quality. It's the worst meat out there. It's the worst muscle meat you could eat out there. That's all I can say. I mean, why do parasites love pork? They love living in pigs. Why? Probably because they're just naturally sort of toxic animals. I wouldn't eat them. Here's another thing you can kind of, this is just, I don't know what I would call it, but pork fat is different than all the other fats. If you've ever washed dishes of something with beef fat versus pork fat, the pork fat is a giant pain in the butt to get off. It's nasty, just it's on there and you have to bust your butt to get it off. That's a sign to me. I don't want that. I don't need that hanging around in my intestines. But yeah, I would, the vitamin A and gout, vitamin A toxicity being connected to anything means that cholestasis is connected to it. So I would, if you want to, go try to find those Mawson papers. I don't remember if I have the full papers. I might. But yeah, it's a liver problem. Gout is a liver problem. Okay. I would definitely, I would get him, he's dealing with gout. Get him off the pork. But get him off the vitamin A. Show him those papers. Get him off the vitamin A. That's the first thing. Oh yeah, Rory was when I was talking about alcohols, cannabinol, OL. That makes me want to just take a second. We're already at 8:40. If somebody else wants to do the research, for those of you who are on the network, if you want to message me, or if you can post it here. I don't know if I'll get back to here. I don't tend to come back and check the chats after we're done. But if we were to find like cannabis aldehydes in the body, like in cannabis metabolism or detoxification, if we were to find cannabis aldehydes and cannabis oic acids, the OIC, like retinoic acid, do you know that there's a calcitroic acid for vitamin D? Vitamin D has aldehyde. There are aldehyde forms. There's acid forms. It's all alcohols. B6, which is also the supposedly other known neurotoxic vitamin, along with vitamin A, alcohol forms. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate, pyridoxal, Al at the end, is an aldehyde. Pyridoxine is an alcohol. Tocopherol, vitamin E. And there are theorized aldehyde forms of vitamin E. I have a very tough time thinking that these are actually vitamins. Can they be used to do things? Yes, they use drugs all the time to do things. Cyclists in the Tour de France used to take strychnine before they raced because it would make their muscles tighter and contract better. They took strychnine. They also took speedballs, heroin, and cocaine. Do these things do things? Yes, they do things. Is it what we want long term? I don't think taking strychnine or speedballs long term is going to be good for anybody's health. I don't think using most pharmaceuticals long term is going to be good for anybody's health. I don't think using one poison to try to suppress the effects of another poison or the symptoms of another poison is a good idea. It's kind of like how chemotherapy treatments for cancer pretty much always end in the patient dying. because they're trying, the whole idea of chemotherapy, get this in your head. They are trying to poison the cancer, which is your own cells. Cancer is your own cells. They're trying to poison the cancer cells, which are your own cells, and hopefully that those cells die before you die. Does it sound like a good approach? Does it sound like it's going to end well at some point? My father had prostate cancer. 5th round of chemo got him. It wasn't the cancer. It was the chemo. So Ali says, and the drugs cause temporary depression-like mood swings when one needs their fix. Lol. Yeah, LOL. Yes. Just like with coffee, people start a coffee habit and they love it and they feel great and they don't notice the downs. And then all of a sudden, as they go on, all of a sudden, if they stop taking their coffee, they get headaches, or they can't function in the afternoon, or they're getting angry and irritable. And they didn't used to have any of this stuff before they drank coffee. The coffee caused the withdrawal symptoms. The sugar causes people to become addicted and then causes them to feel like they have to have it when they don't get it. Alcohol, same thing. Oh, I need alcohol. I need alcohol to relax. You didn't used to need alcohol to relax. You didn't used to need alcohol to perk you up or to calm down after a hard day. So I want you to think about that. You had a hard day, which was rough on your system, and then you're going to go home and drink a poison. Adding a poison to the system only increases the load on your system when you're already tired. It's not going to end well. Oh, wait. It went too far. There's all my links. Rory put a quote, the more fragrant, the better. Oh, this is like that chef I went over last week who made the world's healthiest dish, and he's dead at 43 of a heart attack. Okay. Theodore says, I know of a man who just killed himself while drunk. Well, that's when you hear about things like spousal abuse or fights or child abuse or these things, there's almost always some intoxicant involved, whether it's alcohol or drugs. There's always, and then it's always a sick liver. And one of the things I remember hearing this at one point, they said it was a statement that 90% of the criminals in jail have hypoglycemic tendencies. Hypoglycemia is ruled by your liver. But what happens when you go hypoglycemic? Everybody heard of getting hangry, right? Hangry is hungry and angry because your blood sugar is crashing. So if you take somebody who has poor impulse control, you add substances messing up their liver, and their blood sugar drops, and they basically lose control. And they do things that they wouldn't have done had they not been in that state. A quick story, back when I was in college, my girlfriend back then knew that I was hypoglycemic. I was pretty hypoglycemic all through medical school until I figured out what to do about it with diet and that stuff. But I was getting really mad at her for something that seemed very minimal. And she looks at me and she goes, when was the last time you ate? And I said, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours ago. And she says, why don't you go eat? I think you need to go eat. So I go and I eat and I come back. And then after that 15 minutes, half hour of blood sugar getting into my brain and getting into my liver, I was then apologizing for being such a jerk over something that was super small. So just imagine if you have somebody who has a violent tendency and then is under intoxication and they have a blood sugar crash. They're going to go bonkers. Rory was saying cologne and perfumes are high in aldehydes. If you are taking things to change your scent, you are poisoning yourself. Anything you are using on your body, if you would like to be as healthy as possible, should be as unscented as possible. It's just the way it is. I didn't make the rules. I just relay them to you guys. Theodore says, yes, if I eat bad, I develop a taste for bad food, but if I eat on the low vitamin A diet for a few days, it goes away. Poisons beget poisons. The more poisons you bring into your life, whether it's poisonous behaviors, whether it's poisonous foods, whether it's poisonous chemicals, alcohol, drugs, whatever, the more poisons you want to put in. Then the opposite's true, right? To break that cycle, we have to start taking out the poisonous foods. And what do we tend to notice when we take out poisonous foods? We crave them. And you have to understand the difference between a craving and like wanting something. Like, I like beef. I would never say like I crave beef, like the feeling of when I used to drink, like where I'd want to have, where I'm craving a drink at the end of the day versus just wanting to have some meat because it's sustenance. You have to be able to learn the difference between a craving, which is not good generally, and your body wanting something. And once you learn what the poisons are, you can very easily see what cravings are, because cravings are for poisons. Okay. Yeah, Rory says we vilified salt and push spices. Right. Now I want to take a second to talk to everybody out there about salt. Okay. What do I tell people to do? Well, I go over very specific types of salt that I like for people to use. I want people to use a bright white in color salt. I want it bright white. I do not want red salt with blue specks in it. I do not want pink salt. I do not want gray salt. I should make like a Dr. Seuss rhyme out of that. I do not want colored salt, Sam. I am. Bright white, one ingredient. What's that one ingredient? It could say sea salt. It could say salt. It could say sodium chloride. Why do we not want 72 minerals in our salt? I want you to know on a hair test, when in the essential elements section, which not all of them are essential elements, by the way, there's only about 20 elements there. So if only 20 elements are essential, and then there's another section of toxic elements, and there's another section of additional elements, and that doesn't even add up to 72, are you by automatic implicitness taking in toxic metals? If there's 72 minerals in there, you are taking in toxic metals. Now, this is not even talking about the microplastics in the ocean that are in unprocessed salts. Why is certain salt reddish in color? Why is it pinkish in color? It's got rust in it, iron oxide, ferric oxide. You're eating rust. You take white salt plus red rust, and what you mix them together, and what color do you get? You get pink. Bright white salt, which means it's been processed, one ingredient. So salt. Some people are out there, they hear me, so what do I tell people about salt intake? First of all, if you've been avoiding salt and you absolutely minimize salt on your food and you have health problems, you're going to get to keep your health problems until you start salting your food. We give animals salt licks. We assume that animals can moderate their own salt intake. Now, just because you were taught as a child to not salt your food, because back in the 70s and 80s, there was the like, don't salt your food, it's bad for you kind of thing. And now even the FDA has come out and said, well, we kind of messed up on the low salt thing, and more people died because they went low sodium. Are you seeing when I tell you that nutrition is corrupt and that they make stuff up? And they just couldn't continue the low sodium lie any longer, so they had to give it up. It's like the aspirin thing. Oh, take an aspirin for your heart. And then over the years, now they're going, yeah, that whole aspirin thing, it probably caused more problems. They lie to you to your face. They make up stuff. But there's people out there who have decided that because I said salt your food to taste, which is what I say, salt your food to taste. If you don't use salt, you should start using some and see how your taste improves. Also, a tip, so you don't have to use more salt than you need, and so you taste it. We have salt taste for a reason. I'm just going to give you a tip. If you put salt in the food while it's cooking, you're not going to taste that salt as much. So then later, your guests or you are probably going to want to add more salt. So then you've added salt on top of salt. Whereas, if you add the salt after cooking, as best you can, depending upon the dish, but like with meat, if you add the salt or other mixed casseroles, whatever you're talking about, I'm thinking Thanksgiving here. If you add the salt later, the salt is right on the surface of the food. It's not as diluted through the food. You taste it right away, so you don't want as much. You don't use as much. So generally, a good way to get the right amount of salt that works for your taste buds, telling your brain this is a good amount of salt, is salt your food after cooking as best you can. But then I've got people out there who hear me say salt your food to taste, and they start adding salt to water and like just doing all sorts of crazy stuff with salt. I've had several people on their own, I did not tell them to do this, and they come back to me and they're like, I'm not feeling quite so good, or my blood pressure went up all of a sudden. I didn't tell anybody to drink sodium in their water. Okay, can that be done? Sure. Should it be done every day on top of salting your food? I don't know. If you need to do that every day and that's not getting better, or you're having to add more, there's a problem that's not being addressed. Okay? And if you push sodium that hard, I once had a guy, he contacted me through social media, and he was like, I started taking 25 grams a day of sodium because in one of the books I read on health, they were saying that there was these certain Japanese group that ate 25 grams of sodium a day and they were fine. And he said, I think I messed myself up doing it. And I said, well, if you want my help, I kind of need to do like a hair analysis on you so I can see what your mineral balances are, because I'm pretty sure you messed up your mineral balances by taking too much of one thing. And he said, no, I don't think I messed up my minerals. I just need to figure out what to do to counteract all this sodium I took in. And I'm like, it's a mineral balance problem. I need to see what your balances are so I can help you. He said, no, I don't think that's my problem. I don't think it's a mineral balance problem. And I went, I can't help you. I don't know what to do. So just don't think that like mega dosing salt is your answer. Salt is something that comes into the system every day, day in, day out. It's an essential element, but that doesn't mean that more is better. Generally, I do. If people say, well, what's a good goal? I would say about 2,500 milligrams a day of sodium and about 4,700 milligrams a day of potassium. It's a really good goal. A lot of people aren't going to get there. Minimum, I would suggest to people that you at least get as much potassium as you're getting sodium. So at least a 1-to-1 of sodium to potassium. I think getting about a 2-to-1 potassium to sodium is probably better. At no point did I say to drink salt water. Okay? Allie says, I agree, my taste changed to the simple flavors. The less poisons you put in, the less poisons you want. Theodore says, gluten absorbs zinc. I don't know about that. These are mechanisms that are kind of often potentially made up. So they say, well, people with celiac have lower levels of zinc. Why is that? Well, I see everybody with low levels of zinc these days. Even worse are the protocol people who like avoid it like the plague. And I go, well, okay, how's that going to end up for you? But celiacs do tend to be low in zinc. And if they have absorption problems in their gut, they're going to have even more problems. But those absorption problems are caused by the toxic bile coating their intestines, getting stuck in their gallbladder. And when it comes out, it's super toxic. And then it just coats. Toxic bile is the cause of leaky gut. End of story. I've been over that in some of the other videos. Toxic bile causes leaky gut. That is the cause of your leaky gut. That is the cause of your SIBO. That is the cause of all of it. Somebody posted here today, pork fat is high in PUFA. PUFAs, let's just do a chat about PUFAs. If you're eating generally like on the vitamin A detox program, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about PUFAs, because if you're eating whole foods, where are most PUFAs coming from? Seed oils? Oils in general. Let's just say oils in general. I mean, I'm not recommending eating fish full of mercury, full of all sorts of the nastiness stuff that's in the ocean. It's all in your fish. Fat soluble toxins, it's everywhere. Fish just marinate in it and breathe all that poison in the ocean. And then you have shellfish, which are just bottom feeder, filter feeders, the cockroaches of the ocean. I don't eat those. But so anyway, if people are doing the vitamin A detox program as it's kind of laid out, it's not a high PUFA diet. And I'm generally telling people, if you're going to add any oils, you're adding the minimal amount of oils. So I don't find PUFAs are a concern with people eating processed foods mainly. If you get rid of processed foods, the PUFA problem mainly goes away. So, David asks, do you have any thoughts on how insulin affects the liver for those without diabetes? This is one of those where the mechanism stuff of all of it, people can get into the weeds about the mechanisms. After a while, I started to think about, well, let me see if I looked up insulin and bile. Let me see if I've researched that before. No, not much on it. Okay. So, okay, I bet I could look up insulin. I bet insulin would definitely affect bile. I got to get going here pretty soon. I got to get to my inner circle. But over time, as I got, this was even before the Love Your Liver program, but I started to think about the pancreas and the liver in terms of blood sugar problems. And they do their dance, right? The pancreas and the liver do their dances with their hormones and releasing glycogen or not releasing glycogen or storing glycogen. And I started to think that, and this is what I do believe today, that diabetes is a liver problem. It is a liver and a bile problem. And I can go, Anthony Mawson has a bunch of research on how vitamin A causes insulin resistance. What is vitamin A? Where is it stored? What does it damage? The liver. Well, I mean, it damages everything, but it really damages the liver because it sits there. Your liver stores it and takes the hits. So over time, I started to think, like, why do we have disease show up? It seems like, modern medicine is very bad at finding liver problems. They find it 10 years after it's already been, started. So I started to think that what if diabetes was actually, so let's say the pancreas is failing. It's not doing its job well enough. It's not making enough insulin, probably to counter all the insulin resistance from the vitamin A that's damaging the liver. But what if the liver, think about this, for all these different system problems, if the liver is failing in its job because it's being damaged from all angles. We talked about some of them today, down to spices and herbs and fragrances and alcohol and all this stuff. So the liver is being damaged, and the liver is losing its ability to keep up with its job. Your liver would be like, generally, if your liver was still functioning, can you have liver failure? Yes, you can have liver failure, but I want you to think of your liver as the toughest organ that you have. It is the toughest. It can take the most punishment. It does every day. I started thinking that what if the problem with the pancreas was simply that the liver couldn't keep up with its duties, and that put strain on the pancreas, more strain than the pancreas could bear after a while. And then the pancreas failed or really couldn't do its job because the liver wasn't keeping up with its duties. The liver will still keep doing its duties, because if your liver fails, you're dead. Okay? But the pancreas couldn't handle the increased strain. Now, here's another thing about the bile. So in the bile tree, the biliary tree, so that the bile ducts that go from the liver, it comes out the liver, and then it goes to the gallbladder, and then there's other ducts. Well, one of those ducts, the very last duct, goes to the pancreas. So if you have bile stagnation and bile going places where it's not supposed to go, how much of that bile is going backwards up into the pancreas and damaging the pancreas directly by just touching it with toxic bile? The pancreatic duct, the pancreas adds what it's supposed to the bile as it goes by. Like, it's supposed to be like adding things. The gallbladder dumps the bile, the pancreas to the pancreatic duct then adds stuff to it. It's not supposed to go backwards. But if bile can go backwards all the way up into your stomach and up into your throat, you ever tasted bile? Nasty stuff. But think about it. If it can go backwards up there, it's not very hard for it to go backwards in the biliary tree and then be damaging your pancreas all the time. Pancreatitis, how does that happen out of nowhere? There's tons of pancreatitis cases around the holidays. What are people eating tons of? Oh, I don't know, sweet potatoes and fats. Interesting, right? So, I haven't looked up. Let me just look up. I'll do it real quick. Insulin, bile, PubMed. Well, here we go. Here's a quick paper. Bile acids in glucose metabolism and insulin signaling. Bile acids in glucose metabolism and insulin signaling. Mechanisms and research needs. Let's see if it says anything good in the abstract here. In this review, we highlight the mechanisms by which bile acids regulate glucose homeostasis and the settings in which endogenous bile acids are altered, and provide suggestions for future research. Bile acids regulating glucose homeostasis. You're not supposed to have bile in your blood, people. So, here's the first line of the paper. Over the last 15 years, bile acids have emerged as unexpected players in glucose homeostasis. I did put the study there, right? I did put that. I think so. Let me just click on it, see if it's the right link. Yes, okay. Sorry, so we're back. Here's another line. The presence of bile acids in the systemic circulation raises the possibility that bile acids directly affect tissues throughout the body. That is your health problems. Just trying to see if they say anything good here. I want to see it about the blood sugar stuff. Wait, what is this? What is this picture? Effect of bile acids on metabolic processes throughout the body. Okay, so I'm going to put this link in there because this is pretty outrageous. This is from that paper. So here we are, serum bile acids. They're talking about bile acids in the blood, basically. So we have down here skeletal muscle. It says muscle lipotoxicity. Oh, so you mean bile acids in your blood are toxic to your muscles? Do you think that could be why you have tight and stiff muscles and sore muscles all the time? Adipose tissue, your fat tissue. We have immune cell infiltration. That's not good. In the islets, so they're talking about the pancreas here, endoplasmic reticulum stress, that's not good. Insulin secretion. Bile acids, I'm taking this just from what they're saying here. They're saying effective bile acids on metabolic processes throughout the body. The islets of the pancreas, insulin secretion. So they're saying bile acids secrete insulin. So let's say too much of your bile was going backwards into your blood. And it wasn't necessarily getting to the pancreas in the way that it's supposed to. Well, then you could not make enough insulin. Or let's say if we know that bile causes insulin secretion, and you're having, let's say, extrahepatic cholestasis, where the bile is actually going back up to touch the pancreas through the pancreatic duct, could that cause increased insulin secretion, which would then cause the body to become more insulin resistant, which would then lead down the same road? Okay. Oh, here we have in the liver, bile acids cause hepatic lipotoxicity. And they talk up here in the brain, they talk about in the CNS, food intake. I can tell you that depending upon the type of person people are, whether they're an overtype or an undertype, which I go over in the program, overtypes, when they have a bile dump, will tend to want to eat. Eating helps them not feel worse, whereas undertypes don't want to eat because they know intuitively that eating will make them feel worse, or they've done it before. Because of where the bile is going and what the person needs to do to manage that bile. Let me just see if there's anything else good. Oh, I got to get going. Yeah, I'm not just going to look through these again. But anyway, this is a pretty cool study. Bile acids affecting all sorts of parts of the body. Al, just two quick questions. I have considered if pork raised low vitamin A would make a healthier meat. Healthier does not mean healthy. Would lower vitamin A pork be healthier than higher vitamin A pork? Yes. Okay. Would an animal that was fed less vitamin A, would their liver be healthier to eat than an animal that was fed a ton of vitamin A? Yes. Am I going to touch any liver? No. Am I going to touch any pork generally? No. I might have it on rare occasions, but as a regular part of the diet, no. Sam, that's a big question. I don't have time for that. I'm done. I got to get to my inner circle For those of you who are interested in hearing me talk more, that's over in the Detox Network, the Love Your Liver program over at nutritiondetective.com. We talked about that lactoferrin today. It's for sale in the store. It's linked down in the description, and I'll have the notes for this live stream up soon. And I hope to see you all next week. Talk to you later. Bye.